I usually don't do live streams, but I had the house to myself tonight and I had all this stuff already laid out to work on a project here. And a guy I work with gave me a flash here, which is what they made the original lightsabers out of. This is not a Graflex or anything like that, like they used in the original Star Wars, but this is a project where I take a bunch of junk and turn it into something. So I didn't have a build video this week. I was really busy, and since I happened to have the house to myself with no kids, no fiance, I thought, hey, why not go ahead and show you guys how I do something live? And I don't know how many questions or comments I'm going to be able to get to today, just because I have a computer in the other room, but I will go in periodically when I have time and check on it. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this piece of junk that a guy I work with found and said, hey, I know somebody that makes lightsabers out of pieces of junk, and he also happens to be a Star Wars fan. So thank you for this. I am going to make it into something else. Take off the actual flash. Before the bulb goes in, we'll screw out. Get rid of that. No batteries or anything in there. Always check and be careful too. If you pick these up at a thrift store and they're real heavy, you may have some corroded batteries in them. Okay. Next thing I have here is a flashlight that I got at Walmart, and this is $1. It's really, really cheap. I bought 2 of them in case I ruined one, because I had to take this and Dremel it down smooth so that it would fit inside of here and still light up so I could illuminate the blade. The blade itself I got from a store called Ultra Sabers online. These are called grab bag blades. I get about, I want to say 5 or 6 for about $70, shipping included. That seems like a lot, but these are really high quality, and the cost to go out and actually just buy clear PVC and make your own mold and pour your own resin cap is kind of costly. Best to just kind of go, in my opinion, and just buy them. Also, getting the cellophane inside is pretty hard. I do have different colored cellophanes that I have replaced them and changed them. It's not easy to do either. So they do all that work for you. And for the cost, it really is worth it. And thank you anyone and everyone that is now watching. I see a couple people are. You guys are all awesome. Thank you. Some of the other pieces and parts I have here, this is from an old vacuum cleaner. It's probably going to act as some sort of emitter guard or something like that. Glue that on later. A couple of other things I have is super glue, contact cement, hot glue gun, Gorilla Clear epoxy. I'm going to use that to get the flashlight inside of here and then staying where I want it. Unfortunately, it does take a half hour to set, so I'll be doing boring stuff during that time, like sanding some of these parts so they can be painted later after everything's glued together. And also, I can take the time to answer a couple of your questions too. Also have some model paints. Of course, my handy Dremel, etc., etc. Safety gear, light goggles, respirator. Yes, this is new. No, I normally don't do this. Ooh, lots of sandpaper. Okay, so this has a cool spring in it, and it probably could even, let's try this out. If it would fit, oh yeah, this could make the connection, which I put the actual light inside here for the cap, although I'm probably not going to end up using this cap at all. Probably just have the flashlight end sticking out. Probably will use the gray one. Another thing that I ordered from Ultra Sabers are these little clear colored discs. They will turn your light colors whenever it emits into the blade. Probably going to go with a yellow golden hue for this one, most likely. Okay. So first off, get this spring up and out of here. This setup is so old that you had to put the batteries in, fold this metal piece here over the batteries, and then screw the end cap on. That's seriously how old school this is. Wow. Okay. First things first, break the tips here off my epoxy. Apply even amounts of both. And here, that's certainly way too much, but whatever. And it feels pretty smart of me to have a bunch of paper towels already torn off and ready. I want to cap this epoxy nice and tight. Make sure that's on there so I can use this again. Stir up the 2-part solution. Okay. Next, I'm going to start to apply some. Put some in this hole just because I didn't really want a hole there. All the rest of it is going to get put as evenly as possible all over this here. Not too thick, because this is a relatively tight fit between the two pieces. If you guys have seen my lightsaber build video, either of them, I did a couple almost fruitlessly. I should just erase the one, but I don't. Both are there, both are slightly different. Okay, that's going to get thrown in the trash. Now, I could tear this out, but I'm actually not. This is going to help give it a little bit of spring to it. Okay, now you can see I have some excess there. Using my trusty paper towel, I'm going to quickly wipe this off. I don't want to mess all over my part here. One at it. I might as well just remove the batteries as well and the end cap. I don't want any of this excess epoxy getting in between here and this piece that screws on, because that could possibly fuse them together. We don't want that, of course. Okay. Light is in place. I'm going to go ahead and set this here. Throw all this fun stuff away. Out in the garage where I don't have to smell it, of course. Next, I'm going to start doing some of the more boring stuff while this epoxy sets. So this came off of a vacuum cleaner, and all I did was take a hacksaw and cut this off at an angle, and cut this off and make sure it was nice and even and flush. However, for the paint, probably going to paint the shroud emitter here silver or gold. I haven't decided yet, but for the paint to adhere as well as possible, I'm going to use some sandpaper. First, I'm going to start off with some rough grit. And this sandpaper, if you're wondering, I picked up at the Dollar Tree for $1 for a pack. So, part of the reason I have a build video this week is I don't really have the money for all the supplies and parts that I need to do one. But I already have all this other stuff, and the actual flash was, of course, a gift from the guy I work with. So this video is for you, Mark. I know you're not watching, because you don't watch YouTube. If you did, it's usually Nerf videos. But if you are watching, this one's for you. Okay, that was some rough grits. I have slightly smoother sanding sponge here. I want to say this is 200. Last stuff was 80. I really like these sanding sponges, especially for plastics and parts that have curves and dips and things in them. Or, of course, if you watch my videos, you see me doing it on the masks as well. Okay, now on to a finer 320 grits, I believe. Yeah, 320 fine. Oh yeah. There now. It's smooth, but it's been roughed up. It should hold some paint pretty good. And of course, next I'm going to need to sand the area where it's going to actually make contact so that the super glue will stick better, because I will not be using epoxy for anything else. Like I say, it smells bad, the fumes are harmful, and it takes, you know, a half hour to set. So that would be one long Livestream video. I'm not going to subject you guys to that. For this, I'm not super worried about using any fine grit on this. I just need the surface area roughed up so the glue will stick better, create a more permanent bond. Okay, so luckily for me, the lightsaber tube fits inside here pretty much perfectly. It's a little tight. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of Dremel on this, which I kind of figured. It's okay, it's already more interesting now that I'm making power, using a power tool of sorts. I don't need gloves for this, but I'm going to need eye protection and a respirator. And if you got headphones on, it's about to get loud, so be wary. Okay, that was fun. Let's see if that did the trick. Yeah, it actually did pretty good. Tell if it's getting all the way in there. Like I might need to do a little, yeah, a little bit more. It's getting down to about the third thread. Take just a little bit more off it. That should be good. Now that I know, oh yeah, there we go. My blade is going to fit. Next thing I have to do is figure out where I want, is there any epoxy leaking out? No. And figure out where I want the hole for my set screw, which will hold my blade in place. Will also allow me to change my blade if I so choose. And I can also change the color as well. Get rid of the sanding wheel. Now I'm going to put on the drill bits. Nice and tight. Okay. I'm going to use a Sharpie here to mark where I want this hole to go through, which is pretty much right in the corner here. I probably didn't even really need to mark it. Mark it anyways. It's done. Okay. Once again, eye protection. And just like the last 2 times, it's about to get loud. If you got headphones on, turn them down. Don't want to hurt anybody's hearing. All right, here we go. Voila. Hole is drilled. Now, next question is this screw going to fit? So I have a box of screws. They're number 6s, 3/4 inch. Let's see. Will this screw in and hold a lightsaber? Oh yeah, that screws in real nice. Real nice. So yes, that is perfect. Oh yeah. I don't know if you can see, but blade comes down nicely right to the hole. I can then take this, put my screw in. Now I'm going to have to go at some point off camera later and cut this screw down. The screw is way too long. It'll be sticking out the side of the lightsaber, look all goofy. So I'm going to have to go out later. Probably not during the live stream, but at some point later I will have to go out and cut this screw down. Also, you don't really need the point. I want the screw to be flat. But I'll do that outside my garage later. For right now, work on getting the rest of this together as this sets. So, for the actual emitter cover here itself, I say I'm just going to go ahead and glue this on with some super glue. Nothing fancy here. I got a tube of regular old super glue. I suggest Gorilla just because it doesn't go everywhere quite as much as this stuff does. This stuff is as runny as water. The Gorilla super glue I feel is a little bit better. Okay. Just because it doesn't go all over the place. This stuff here kind of does. Nice thing about super glue is you have a little bit of work time with it. So I can position a piece, unlike with contact cement, where it just is where it is, how it is, and you're stuck with that. It kind of drives me nuts. Okay, let me see, is that level? Even? Yes, that looks like I just dropped it and knocked it over. Okay, is it still level and even? I think it's as level as even as I'm going to get it. So go ahead and plug in my hot glue gun here. Let that get hot. All it is, I'm going to take a look at my computer and see what all you guys commented. All right. Okay. I'm going to take my super glue, add a little bit more. Okay, I just put a little bit of super glue in there. Just a little bit extra to help seal this up. Don't want this coming off. Thought about removing these, but I really want to leave it looking as much like a actual camera flash as possible. I don't know why, but I do. Okay. Also have a couple other gizmos and things out here. This kind of looks like a cover tech wheel, which is what is on the lightsaber for the Jedi to hang it onto their belt. I actually want to put it, where do I want to put this? I'm going to be holding this in my offhand. I want to put that right there. Got a little flat spot anyways, where this would fit nicely. Go ahead and sand this down. And for some reason, whenever I pulled up the video, my PC in the other room, it is not cooperating. It's okay, I have a laptop and a couple other methods I can try. And this little piece here actually came off of an oil candle. This covered the wick. I know that's not very specific, but like I said, I'm making this lightsaber out of junk that I have lying around. Not out of a bunch of things I go to the store and get. Although, anytime I go to Lowe's or Home Depot or any other home improvement place, knowing that they made the lightsabers for the first Star Wars film either out of old Graflex flash bulbs or out of sink and kitchen parts, I'm not one to ever just stand there and not see lightsabers everywhere. I literally see lightsabers everywhere as I'm walking through the plumbing area of Home Depots and Lowe's. Especially like the little drain kits. In fact, I still think the same company that made the kits that you would buy for Obi-Wan still makes those same kits. Okay, hot glue gun. Any super glue leak out? No, still don't have any leaked out. I'm going to take the hot glue gun and I'm going to use it to seal right around where it's glued. That's an area of the saber that nobody's really going to see. Unless, of course, you take the blade out and give it to them to look at. But Otherwise, it's a good place to reinforce with hot glue on the inside where nobody's going to see it, unlike on the outside. Okay, had to do that off camera just because the cord does not stretch far enough. Hopefully you can see in there. I now have the hot glue in place to help seal up that glued seam there. Okay. So now that I have roughed up this area here with my sandpaper and roughed this up, I'm going to go ahead and put a bit of super glue on each. Not too much, just a little bit. A little bit on here as well. What I'm going to do is put some hot glue down inside that hole and then stick the two together. And the super glue, I think, says you have to hold it for 30 seconds or a minute or let it sit if it has full contact. Like this had full contact, I didn't need to hold it. This, however, does not have full contact, so I'm going to have to hold it. The hot glue is nice and hot, so it should seep down in here pretty well to help seal up any gaps where this white piece may not touch this. I don't want this coming off. But yeah, it looks like a CoverTech wheel almost. And I'm not sure what I'm going to paint this. Or I may just use the gray one here and weather it and dry brush it, because it should all fit. It's the same cheapo dollar lightsaber. Oh yeah. I may just leave the line of red there. I may change it. I don't know. But cool, cool, cool. Okay. Okay, the epoxy is already starting to set. That's great. Okay. The other thing I have is this little button looking thing, and what this is from is a screw cover. You can pick those up at Lowe's as well. But yeah, it looks a lot like it would be some other type of little lightsaber button or other, so I'm going to glue that onto probably right down here below this other one. Well, it's actually a screw, but whatever. We're going to call it a lightsaber button because imagination in Star Wars. The surface is already knurled. As you can probably see, it has a nice texture on it, but still smooth, because it was mold injected plastic of some type. And whatever type of plastic composite it is, it's not very definitely not cheap. It's pretty tough. Of course, this is pretty old, and as they say, they don't make it like they used to. Okay. Alright, sand this piece up a little bit as well. Same as the other. A little bit of super glue. It's actually a little bit too much. There, that's better. And also, like before, a little bit of hot glue. So I did see one of the questions was, what lightsaber are you making? None specifically, because this doesn't exactly look like anything. I'm just showing you guys how I make stuff out of junk all the time. Half the stuff I do, I don't film or make like an actual video for. It slows down the project for one thing. But I never just thought for quick projects like this that I'm usually working on, which is based around either commission work or somebody gives me something and is like, hey, make something out of this and then let me see it. So I appreciate the gift and then I do make something. But you usually don't film it because it takes all that time to edit. But why not live stream it? If you guys hate it, you can always thumbs down this and I'll never do it again, or I'll do it again anyways. But either way, options, folks. Okay. All right. I say this gets the Matthew McConaughey approval, as far as I'm concerned. He may not actually approve. But yeah, those are pretty solidly on there. Cool. Okay. What did I do? My two yellow colored discs. Are they under this? They could be. Hold on. I do want to put them in with the blade and see what it looks like. Oh, here they are. So these are the two color discs that I have. Are these going to fall through the hole in here? Nope. Haha! Luckily they did not fall through the hole. If they did, I would never be getting them out. Okay. Which direction does this go in? Bam. Gray end piece on. Bam. Tube inside. Make sure it's all the way in there. And has an okay yellow color. I feel like it's slowing down the luminosity. Not that there's a lot of lumens coming out of this light, but I feel like it is kind of slowing it down regardless. So I may choose a different color, but I can always change it later. Either way, it should make a pretty cool Shoto for my offhand. Okay. Oh yeah, that epoxy is setting nicely. Next, I have this little cutting wheel. There's a tool that goes with my Dremel, because I am going to have to cut down this screw. I'm going to use it as a set screw. Okay. And of course I brought every tool that I have except for a pair of pliers. Set that off to the side. Drill it back. Okay, I'm going to be using the Dremel again. This is, of course, going to get quite loud. You have been warned. Okay, so I have a whole box of these. In the event that this cut doesn't go well, because I've cut these and sometimes they just don't want to thread in after you cut them. I'll let that cool for a second. Take this attachment back apart. Because, yeah, I mean, as you can see, there's sparks flying here. Luckily, my fiance's not home for all this. Oh, Mountain Dew, what would I do without you? There's the hole. Okay. And I cut it too short. Okay, I'm going to have to do this again. This kind of makes me wish I would have checked this before taking my Dremel apart. Lame. Okay. Now I get to put all this back together and try this again. Of course, much less enthusiastically than the first time I did it, because this is now the second time. There we go. Okay, hopefully that's not too long. Although I can always put a screw protector or something on the outside that it fits into. I have certainly done that on enough other sabers. Yeah, it's threading in nice and straight. Okay, make sure my blade's in all the way. Go ahead and tighten this. Oh yeah. That is not going anywhere. That's awesome. Okay, so that works. Alright, so I went and grabbed the other half of the screw protector here, which has a little hole in it. This is basically the other half of this little piece that I glued on. You put your screw through it, and then you flip this top over to cover your screw. But I use it for lightsaber stuffs. Rough that up. Rough up the area around where the screw goes. Oops. It's not what I wanted to happen. Okay. Give it a nice slight groove and concavity to it. Hopefully it'll stick a little bit better. And much like with the other one, I put some hot glue in it. Okay, just to check to make sure I got it lined up. If it wasn't lined up, the light would not go through the hole and we would have a problem. Okay, so that's good and lined up. So the set screw should have no problem going through once I repunch the hole. Of course, since I put hot glue in there, the hole is now sealed regardless, but it's not really a big deal. Putting a screw through it once all is said and done. Another thing too I want to point out here, I may go back through later and some of these pieces that I super glued on, like you can see there's a gap. This doesn't line up flush because I didn't sit there in my garage for a ridiculous amount of time and sand this down so that it fits exactly flush. I may go back through later with some epoxy and fill in that gap, and also make sure that it's extra stable. I don't want this coming off, of course. Okay. And at this point, it's been about a half hour. So the epoxy should be pretty well set, I figure. So I probably am going to use this gray end here, not the red one. I'll stick the red one on my spare flashlight and use that for some other project later. I do not want this little lanyard thing on it. It's useless. Even if it wasn't useless, this ring is so cheap, it would just stretch if you had this whole lightsaber hanging on your belt, and it would not be good. Okay, make sure I haven't glued or anything wrong or ruined anything. This still works. Yay, it still works. Okay, good, good, good. Alright, so my generic home-built lightsaber is starting to come together. And this, of course, is going to be a Shoto. I cut down the actual blade length pretty considerably by about 6 inches, and this was already a short blade to begin with. Now the blade's about 2 feet. So we're talking Yoda size here. Like, this is a Yoda sized lightsaber that I'm making. I will go grab another one for comparison, of course, once I get all this painted and put together. Now reset this hole with this screw here so I can put my original set screw in it. I'm going to do that by simply screwing one of these screws in through the hot glue / super glue that I just put in. Alrighty. Okay, there's my hole once again, worn in through there. Make sure I sit here and apply some more pressure to this. So make sure I get a good bond for at least 30 seconds. I'm going to hold this. Okay. Now let's see what other colors I have in the bag here. Ooh, I have a purple. Probably not a very vibrant purple, but it's still a purple. Ooh, I have 2 purple. Let's see what these 2 look like together. Yeah, that's a lot brighter than the yellow, that's for sure. I knew the yellow wasn't going to let very much light out. That, of course, looks much, much better. I think I'm going to have to go with purple on this one, y'all. That is pretty much a definite. Yes, I like the excuse me, purple much more than the yellow. Okay. Sorry, yellow. You got beat out by the purple. Yellow goes back. Purple stays out. Okay. So while I'm waiting on the super glue to dry up the rest of the way here, and while I'm waiting on the epoxy, I'm going to go ahead and start painting some of this. And to paint it, I'm going to paint it by hand, and I have some Model Masters paints here. I went ahead of time and thinned these out with a little bit of odorless mineral spirits. So they're not as thick as they come. I have silver, I have some gold, and I also have some Testors red as well. And the first thing I'm going to paint is going to be the shroud cover itself. If you can't tell just from watching, this is why I love the Model Masters paints. Just one coat. It is enamel, yeah. It does take a lot longer to dry. Also, yes, true and true, it does smell bad, but once you thin it out and get it to the correct consistency of what you want, it is quite easy to apply. Acrylics, a lot of times, you're going to have to do multiple coats. This stuff, I only really ever do one or two. The second one is usually just to work out the mistakes in my first coat. And the mistakes are the brush strokes. You can put this in an airbrush. I usually don't put enamels in my airbrush, period, just because they make it much, much harder to clean. It's not easy at all to clean enamel out of an airbrush versus cleaning out acrylics. If you happen to forget and leave your paint in there, well, good luck getting that out. Seriously. So you won't see the final painted saber in the video because I'm going to have to apply a few coats. And enamel in particular usually takes a while to dry. The way I do it is what I call the smell test, or what model makers, I should say, call the smell test. Because I got this from a model forum. When it doesn't smell like the enamel paint anymore, it's dry. But that could be 72 hours, 48 hours. This dries considerably quicker because I put the odorless mineral spirits in it and I thinned it out. However, that also means that it applies much more evenly, which means I have less brush strokes and things to go back and work out with the second coat. I usually never need to sand because it applies and spreads out thin enough that I don't have a bunch of excess paint that I really honestly need to sand off. And as you'll notice, no matter which way I apply this, I always go back and make sure it's all evened out in the same direction as far as the brush strokes. That'll help it look much more consistent, especially when you have to go back and do your second or third coat. And now you don't know why, and now you know why I don't show myself brush painting in my videos unless it's time-lapsed, because this is slow and kind of boring to watch. And if you try to apply a second coat of Model Masters before it dries, I'll wipe off my mistake here as much as possible. Yeah, if you try to apply a second coat before it dries, it ends up just pulling off the first coat and messing it up pretty good. So I don't suggest that. Try to be 100% sure that it has dried. Now, you're not really going to see the inside of this, so I'm not super worried about getting a perfect paint job on the inside here, but I am going to paint the inside because painting the inside will help to increase your luminosity by increasing the reflectivity of the light from the light source. So even though you're not really going to see the inside, still painting the inside. Been doing a Star Wars marathon. Did 1, 2, 3, Rogue One, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and The Force Awakens, which just leaves one more left, but I took a break to put this together. And so I get it done quickly. I force myself through the power and magic of Livestream, where I feel like I have a deadline and a time that I should get this, hurry up and get this done by, which can get me back to my Star Wars. Okay, I'm going to run out to the garage real quick and clean out this paintbrush with some mineral spirits. Okay. The other thing I'm not a huge fan of with the oil paints is I have to use mineral spirits to clean it, and that stuff stinks and it's flammable, and etc., etc. Even the odorless mineral spirits, I can still smell you. Or it's in my head and I'm imagining it. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to do the set screw cover here in gold. Okay, got a nice little gold accent there. I'm going to leave this the color it is. I'm going to leave these on, even though I probably shouldn't leave them on and leave them nice and corroded. Now, this little button down here, I want to paint red, but I'm probably not going to do that till later. Just because I've taken up so much of you awesome people's time already checking this out. Hopefully you liked it. So far, I gave you some ideas for your own projects, hopefully. So since I need to sit this here for this other stuff to dry, it's pretty much all I'm going to be able to do on this. But I'm going to light this up real quick and dim the lights and then turn the lights off also completely so you can see how this looks. Okay, so that is the luminosity level with the lights on. Not too shabby. And with both lights off and total darkness, you can see how it's lit up. And that's not bad for a $1 flashlight. Something somebody gave me that is essentially junk, and some other junk I had lying around my house. And if you want to see how this looks whenever it's fully painted, please head over to Instagram and Facebook. I will post photos of the finished product there. Excuse me. And as always, thank you for stopping by and checking this out. And like I say, if you want to see the finished, just check it out on Instagram and Facebook. I will post photos once it is totally done.